I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. With the 2024 election fast approaching, Spectrum News sat down with Donald Trump. The former president gave his insight on the current state of political polls and what he is doing to gain momentum in battleground states. Trump continued attacks against rival Kamala Harris on key election issues.
He's a San Francisco liberal, and if you want to have that in charge, you see what happened to California, you see what happened to San Francisco. If you want to have that in charge, our country's going to be finished.
Tim Walz made his first solo appearance as Harris's running mate Tuesday. Walz spoke at a union convention in Los Angeles. He's also fundraising in Orange County tonight. This is the first of 5 events in a fundraising swing this week.
We get to wake up on that morning after the election and know that the work we did transformed the lives for millions.
In the Middle East. Meanwhile, according to Axios, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has delayed a trip to the region over uncertainty about the situation. Israel and Hamas are facing global pressure to reach a ceasefire during a key meeting Thursday. Those are your headlines. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at your weather on the ones.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette, leading our weather headlines. Storminess in the plains with potential for flooding and severe weather late at night over the next few days. To the south, we have big heat expected here with temperatures running well above average. And in the tropics, we have quick moving Ernesto. Ernesto threatening the northeastern Caribbean islands, where it's heading next and what impacts it could bring to the East Coast. I'll have more on that coming up on Weather on the Ones in the next 10 minutes.
The 2024 presidential election front and center Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. With less than 90 days until Americans hit the polls in November, both candidates are working to win over voters. Kamala Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, kicked off a solo campaign blitz Tuesday, speaking to supporters in Los Angeles. More on that in just a bit. But first, Spectrum News spoke one-on-one with Donald Trump Tuesday. The former president addressed recent polls showing a close race with the vice president. Spectrum's Evan Kozloff kicks off our Decision 2024 coverage with more in the interview, including how Trump is planning to gain momentum.
She's a San Francisco liberal.
Former President Donald Trump on a media blitz on Tuesday, speaking one-on-one with Spectrum's Tim Boyum in North Carolina and Anthony DeBruzzi in Wisconsin. Let's talk about New York Times and Siena College, showing his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, with a slight lead across the blue wall states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Trump echoing claims he made on Truth Social Tuesday morning that the poll oversampled Democrat voters.
They underreport Republicans and they overreport Democrats.
In both interviews, Trump bashed Harris on the economy and on immigration, blaming Harris for the surge of migrant crossings during the Biden-Harris administration.
It's going to be called a Trump mass deportation.
Our Tim Boyum pressed Trump on what a mass deportation effort would look like with millions of undocumented people currently living in the U.S.
How do you do that logistically with that many people?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. You have to give the local police the authority.
The Biden-Harris administration has pushed back on Trump's criticisms, saying border crossings have gone way down since Biden issued executive actions tightening asylum negotiated in the Senate earlier this year.
The motion is not agreed to,
which was killed when Trump came out against it. At a rally in Las Vegas over the weekend, Harris conceded that changes are needed on the border.
Comprehensive reform that includes, yes, strong border security and an earned pathway to citizenship.
She's copying a lot of the Trump policy.
Trump also criticized Harris for her recent announcement that she, too, is supporting the elimination of taxes on tips, something that Trump had been pushing for weeks at rallies.
Would you eliminate both the income tax and the payroll tax on tips?
We're looking at doing the full bore.
And both campaigns are now dialed in on North Carolina. Trump's going to be in Asheville on Wednesday, whereas Harris is going to be in Raleigh on Friday. Trump won the state by just under 75,000 votes in 2020. Reporting here in Washington, this is Evan Kozloff, Spectrum News.
Democratic Vice President's running mate with a stop in Los Angeles. Walz spoke to a labor group this afternoon at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And Ariel Wessler joins me now with more on Walz's visit to Southern California. Ariel, what's the latest?
Well, Sharon, Walz addressed union workers at the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Convention. That public sector union is also known as AFSCME, which has endorsed Harris for president. Now, AFSCME President Lee Saunders previously called Walz a good friend to the union and someone who has always put the interests of working people front and center. Walz told the crowd he was the first union member to be on a presidential ticket since Ronald Reagan. Since being named to the ticket a week ago, Walz and Harris spent the last week blitzing in key battleground states, campaigning on the message of hope.
Hope is a great word and a beautiful name, but it's not a damn plan. We can't hope that we protect Social Security. We can't hope that we address climate change. You don't hope to win. You plan, prepare, and work to win.
I want to show you this. The California GOP released a statement in response to Tim Walz's campaign, saying in part, quote, Walz will be a rubber stamp for Harris's bad ideas, but he would be better served taking notes while in the Golden State on what not to do instead of selling a disastrous agenda to already frustrated Californians. Walz is also headlining a fundraiser tonight in Orange County, California. Then on Wednesday, he will speak at fundraisers in Denver and Boston before heading back east to Newport, Rhode Island and Southampton, New York on Thursday. Sharon?
All right, Ariel Wessler in California. Thanks. And Spectrum political anchor Alex Cohen was at the Walz event in L.A. Alex, what was the energy like from this group of workers?
There was a ton of energy in the convention hall today. This is a union that has 1.4 million members nationwide, several thousand of them meeting here today for the annual convention. And it seems like Governor Tim Walz really struck a chord with them, saying that he is the first labor candidate on the presidential ticket since Ronald Reagan. Then went on to say, but don't worry, I won't lose my way. And he really talked about the importance of working for the vote and highlighted his record of really being a champion of labor in his home state of Minnesota.
Elsewhere, Alex, after his conversation with former President Donald Trump on X, Elon Musk posted that he'd be happy to host Harris on the platform as well. But the conversation with Trump was wide-ranging, but it's their comments about striking. More about that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thread that we see running here, the intersection between labor and politics. Last night, during the roughly 2-hour conversation that took place on Elon Musk's X Spaces area, Donald Trump made certain remarks that were seen by many, including the UAW, the massive United Auto Workers Union, as being intimidating to workers. Donald Trump saying basically, if it looks like folks are striking, then you could fire them. Well, that, in the UAW's opinion, violates national labor laws, and they very swiftly spoke out and have now taken legal action. I think we're seeing a real sharp contrast here when it comes to labor and these two presidential tickets.
Yeah. All right. Alex Cohen in Los Angeles. Thanks. Be sure to join Spectrum News tonight for a special edition of Front Porch Politics. The rapid rise of artificial intelligence and the potential impact on voters this election year. That's available on all your favorite devices starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. An Ohio police officer indicted following the fatal shooting of a pregnant black woman accused of shoplifting. What we know about the case just ahead on Spectrum News.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum, and free with your Spectrum subscription.
At Spectrum, we know that internet is a vital tool to help you fulfill your dreams.
My dream is to become a video game developer.
My dream is to get my online college degree. That's why Spectrum has affordable solutions to keep you connected. At Spectrum, we are committed to delivering reliable, affordable internet and unlimited mobile to keep you connected to what matters most to you.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
It's near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette. Across the plains in the Midwest, over the next few days, storms are going to be the issue where we may see heavy flooding potentially, in addition to the threat of severe weather. For Sioux Falls in Iowa, storms on Wednesday. Kansas City late Wednesday expecting the rain. Farther east, we are going to have multiple rounds of rain, so we could pick up a few inches of rain here before the end of the week. Some spots might pick up as high as 4 inches of rain. As our system moves to the northeast, it's going to bring that chance of storms along a front by early Wednesday morning over Kansas City and into Missouri, where we may have flooding issues in Missouri on Wednesday. Then those storms fall apart with another round developing on the south end of this low pressure system over Kansas City by Wednesday night, moving eastward into Indiana, Illinois by Thursday. So we're going to be watching this system closely because of that threat for flooding and severe weather. For Wednesday, the main risk will be from Omaha to Kansas City, close to where that low will be. The main risks would be severe winds and hail. There also is a level 1 risk farther to the north and west. And then on Thursday, the main risk pushes eastward towards Chicago and St. Louis into the Midwest, where we'll again be watching that line of storms pushing along. But flooding is going to see 3-4 inches of rain. Missouri, I think, is going to be an area on Wednesday that could have some flooding there, especially in Columbia and points northward into Iowa. So the flood risk will be present there. At least those temperatures, they're going to be cooler on the north end of the system, so we're into the 70s in the Dakotas, 80 degrees in Minneapolis, but Kansas City will get to 90 degrees on Wednesday, fueling those storms for Wednesday night. Along the Gulf Coast, heat's going to be an issue for the rest of this week. 90s expected then, up to 106 degrees in Phoenix. In the next 10 minutes, we're going to talk about the tropics. Where is Ernesto heading? What impacts it bring to the East Coast on Weather on the Ones?
If you're just joining us, here's what you need to know. Spectrum News spoke one-on-one with Donald Trump as the race for the White House heats up. Trump continued to attack his opponent. Harris's running mate, Walz, made his first solo appearance on the campaign trail in Los Angeles Tuesday. The Minnesota governor addressed workers at a labor union convention. And Elon Musk has extended invitation to Harris to appear in an interview with him on X. It comes after Musk held a live conversation on the platform with Donald Trump Monday. And that's what you need to know this evening. Iran is rejecting a call from 3 European countries urging Tehran to refrain from any retaliatory strikes that could further escalate tensions in the region. Leaders of Britain, France, and Germany are also endorsing the latest push by mediators to broker an agreement to end the Israel-Hamas war. Ceasefire talks are expected to resume Thursday. The plan includes 3 phases, which would also return hostages held by both Israel and Hamas. Meanwhile, Axios report says the top U.S. diplomat's travel was delayed over uncertainty about the situation, citing 2 unnamed sources. Now, Gaza's health ministry says nearly 40,000 Palestinians have died since the war began. A grand jury indicted an Ohio police officer Tuesday in the murder of 21-year-old Takaya Young. The pregnant mother was fatally shot inside her vehicle last August after being suspected of shoplifting. Spectrum's Carla Redditt joins us now with the latest. And Carla, the officer faces several charges in addition to murder.
Yes, he does, Sharon. Blendon Township Police Officer Connor Grubb faces 4 counts of murder, but he also faces 4 counts of felonious assault and 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. It marked a solemn victory for Young's family, who called the officer's actions unnecessary aggression.
In no scenario does somebody shoplifting contribute at all to their murder by a police officer who was investigating and asking questions about that.
This happened in August of last year. Alcohol from a grocery store. A store employee flagged down 2 nearby officers, one of whom was Connor Grubb. He and a fellow officer approached her car and ordered her to get out. However, video shows that she rolled the car forward toward Grubb, who then fired a single bullet through her windshield into her chest. She and her unborn child died. The Blendon County Police Department's use of force policy says officers should try to move away from an approaching vehicle instead of firing their weapons. Sharon?
And Carla, the Blendon County Police Chief posted a video on social media after the indictment was announced. What did he have to say?
Well, Sharon, he said the department has started a disciplinary review now that Grubb has been indicted. Grubb has been on paid administrative leave since that shooting. The union representing the police department says the indictment is disappointing. He is scheduled to be arraigned in court Wednesday. Sharon?
All right, Carla read it. Obstruction of justice following last year's raid on a small Kansas newspaper. The raids were conducted at the Marion County Record, the home of its publisher and the home of a city councilwoman. Special prosecutors say they're charging former Marion Police Chief Gideon Cody for interfering with the judicial process for actions he took after the raid. Cody's accused of persuading a potential witness to withhold information. He has since resigned from the Marion Police Department. Making a meaningful impact, coming up on Spectrum News. How a summer camp is helping young men and boys navigate life by exploring nature.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community, to understand journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
Give me one good reason why I shouldn't switch to Spectrum Enterprise.
Well, you said our services meet some of your technology needs.
But not all.
Well, maybe you have too many.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Look, I'm switching to Spectrum Enterprise because they'll be a true partner. And I can't run this network without one.
I think you can.
Our clients do it all the time.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette. With Tropical Storm Ernesto, it continues to threaten the Caribbean islands. It's looked healthy on satellite and is expected to strengthen further as it pulls away from the islands on Wednesday, but currently seeing some intensity with the storm as it's been over very warm Atlantic waters. Hurricane watches are in effect for the Virgin Islands. Tropical storm warnings in effect for Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles, where the main impacts from this would be tropical storm to hurricane force winds. In addition, we could see lots of rain with this, over a half-foot of rain possible from Puerto Rico into the east. Now, the storm will pull away and is expected to strengthen into a hurricane by Wednesday morning. Then you'd think, well, it's going to turn out to sea. This isn't going to be a threat to anyone. Unfortunately, that is not the case, as the island of Bermuda could be very close to this system and somewhere nearby the island. So may not be a direct threat for U.S. land, but to Bermuda, they're going to be watching the storm closely, where we could see tropical storm force winds at minimum there by the weekend. It is not common for the island to see hurricane force winds. As for what impacts could be felt across the East Coast with large wave swells, we may have an elevated rip current risk running along the Atlantic coastline. So if you have beach plans going into this upcoming weekend, do note there is potential there for a higher threat. The one nice thing about this system is that it may pull down some drier air along the East Coast that might make it as far south as Florida. So there could be a break from the big heat with lower humidity felt going into the weekend. But there's still going to be a good potential for some storms along the coast as well with a front. Thursday and Friday, mid-90s felt in Jackson, 98 degrees, 95 degrees on Friday in New Orleans. We're into the hundreds in Texas. Very toasty temperatures felt in Texas in the southern plains. And in the Gulf Coast, it will just remain hot and humid with a chance of storms. New Orleans over the next few days, Wednesday, 96 degrees and dry, but better chances of storms arrive Thursday and Friday. Mid-90s expected, lows only falling to the 80s. So one front could bring some drier air in, but overall many in the south will continue to still see some big heat over the course of this week.
President Biden announces roughly $150 million in funding to develop new technology to treat cancer patients. Biden and the First Lady traveled to Louisiana Tuesday to tour the Advanced Research Projects Agency, searching for better ways to remove cancerous tumors. It's all part of the Biden administration's Cancer Moonshot program.
And we're moving quickly because we know all families touched by cancers are in a race against time. It's all part of our goal of our Cancer Moonshot, to end cancer as we know it.
The issue is personal to the president, who lost his son Beau to brain cancer in 2015. Schools in California and South Carolina may soon limit cell phone use in the classroom. California Governor Gavin Newsom sent letters to districts Tuesday to urge the change. The country's second largest school district, Los Angeles Unified, has already approved a ban to go in effect next spring. Now, the South Carolina State Board of Education is expected to approve guidelines limiting phone access. States where bans are already in effect include Florida and Louisiana. The bans come as educators try to read on the mental health of students. A Wisconsin summer camp is helping young men and boys find their way in life by bringing them back to nature. It's called Camp Shango, Peace, Father, Son, and Friends Retreat. The camp recently celebrated its 28th year. Spectrum's Wendy Strong talks to the camp leaders about how it was founded and where it's headed.
It's a summer camp for boys and men that was inspired by the Million Man March, and its founders say it's still going strong and making a positive impact on the community.
Tuning up this boat is part of a promise Bradley Thurman made back in 1995 when he attended the Million Man March in Washington, D.C. It was a call to black men in America.
Basically, Minister Farrakhan said if 1 million men go home to their community and do one thing to improve their community, you'll have a better community.
Helping create Camp Shango Peace Father, Son, and Friends Retreat for black boys and men from Milwaukee was Bradley's one thing.
You can change and motivate behaviors.
DeJohnny Denson is the camp's director. He's organizing supplies for the summer outing. He says he loves seeing kids from the city fish for the first time. DeJohnny's dad, Ron Johnson, was another camp founder 28 years ago. DeJohnny grew up camping with his father, who passed away in 2019.
Amazing to be able to, perpetuate and continue such an amazing tradition that I grew up in and many of my friends and community members grew up in as well. And, changing the narrative around fatherhood and the way that, us as men collaborate in the city.
Many who've experienced the camp are the ones who support it the most, showing the impact it continues to have through the generations.
It's interesting now that I'm the camp director, those same friends and cousins that I grew up with are some of my same members who helped me put on camp this year.
The camp relies on community for all participants. The goal is to grow in the future.
My hope is that this thing gets enough acknowledgement, enough financial support to buy a home-based camp where we can start to service 300, 500, 700 youth out of the city of Milwaukee and make a change.
Giving men and boys as young as 7 years old the opportunity to connect with each other and nature. In Milwaukee, Wendy Strong, Spectrum News.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Our Spectrum News and 90s coming up right after the short break. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% cities and neighborhoods they live in, with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today, I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.